Hello, can you hear me? Paused due to poor connection. Let's see here. Okay, I don't know what's going on. 1 second. Okay. I'm gonna mute that because that's annoying. How is the sound quality? Hi, everyone. Okay. So I'm not Yulia. Yulia is sleeping. And I'm gonna go ahead and start with the news. My camera setup is very weird, so I apologize. But we'll go ahead and get started. On Instagram, it keeps like coming in and out. So, all right. Lots to talk about. I also want to play part of the podcast that's going to come out hopefully later tonight or tomorrow regarding Donald Trump's hearing in front of the DC Circuit Court of Appeals for absolute immunity. So let's dive right in. If you're not following me, you can follow me at on YouTube. Go to beacons.ai / Godet Rob, and I'll come up there. And if not, you can see the link in the bio, which I will post afterward. Okay. So let's start with, I'm going to do this in the same format as the podcast. Hang on, listen to this. I don't know if you can hear it. There is another air raid alert in Kyiv going off. I just got that on my phone. So, F you, Russia. The general staff released the updated numbers. 840 personnel were killed. These are Russian personnel for July 12th. 16 armored combat vehicles, 11 artillery systems, 1 air defense system, only 1 drone. So these are tactical operational UAVs. These are not Shaheds. So usually they knock out at least like 30, 40, 50. Grumpy, you would definitely know. Yeah, Instagram is annoying. It keeps saying bad connection. I don't know why. It could be my phone. Not that many people are watching. 16 vehicles and fuel tanks, and then 2 pieces of special equipment. I also want to go over the air defense report. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Right now, Ukraine is under a pretty large air assault. So let me pull up the air defense report from yesterday. Give me 1 second. Ukraine. This is kind of last minute, so I apologize. Okay, here we go. Dang. Yeah, Instagram keeps freezing. That's weird. So I actually don't have the air defense report. So the last one that I have, which Yulia probably already covered, was from um, the 8th. So that's 4 days ago. I'll go over that one. On January 8th, Russia launched a massive attack using cruise missiles, aviation, ballistic missiles, and anti aircraft guided missiles. Um, 8 Shock Shahed 136, 131 drones were sent from Primorsko-Akhtarsk, from the Russian Federation. These drones have to be shot down by roving uh, security forces in Ukraine. They have to spot them, and then they have to shoot them down. Some of them are using weapons that date back. I mean, they're not actually from World War One, but the design is from World War One, um, and so they are shooting those down. Um, they launched 7 S-300 slash S-400 anti-aircraft missiles from Belgorod. Uh, they launched 4 Kinjals. So these are these fake hypersonic weapons. Let me do this. This is bad. I'll do the YouTube link. youtube.com/@Yulia. Bad connection here. Okay. They launched 24 KH. So let's talk about the Kinjals. These are those fake hypersonic missiles. A true hypersonic missile is one that can maneuver. So they're not a set it and forget it type of missile. They can maneuver in the air, traveling at hypersonic speeds. And then it's not just at the ending sequence when the missile is about to hit its target. Um, all missiles travel at the speed of sound. I think hypersonic is defined. Correct me, someone in the comments if I'm wrong. Um, yeah, the Maxim came out in 1908. That's what they used to shoot down these Shahed drones, which Shahed, by the way, means witness in Iranian. Um, so these KH-47M2 Kinjal, which translates to dagger in English, they are hard to intercept, but the Patriot battery is able to intercept all of these missiles, because Patriot batteries missiles, the Pac 2 missiles, can travel at speeds much faster. I'm sorry, Leopold is eating a painting on the floor. Come here, Bubba. He gets very mad if I'm not paying attention to him. Okay, Leo, here you go. You're going to stay here, and I'm going to lower this so people can see. The They launched 24 KH-101, KH-555, KH-55 cruise missiles. They launched 8 KH-22 cruise missiles from Tu-22M3 strategic bombers from Belgorod, 6 Iskander-Ms, and 2 KH-31 air-guided missiles. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to what's going on right now. The reason I wanted to go live is because Yulia wasn't able to today, and there is a lot of aviation activity. So I have a feeling that there is going to be another massive air attack. So let me pull up the correct Telegram channel where this information is. Okay, so all right, on January 11th, there was a takeoff of one MiG 31K. So not to get too technical, but these jets are the ones that carry the Kinjal hypersonic missiles. Now, these missiles do travel really fast. So whenever they take off, the entire country has to go under an air alert because the time from the launch to when it can get all the way to Lviv near the Polish border is only 5 minutes. So anytime those take off, they have to, everyone goes under an air alert. The other thing that they're doing is they're practicing refueling in the air. So there's an IL-78 tanker that will take off with it, and then they'll practice the refueling process so that they can stay in the air longer. When they don't actually fire the missile, the Kinjal, the dagger missile, they are creating hours and hours and hours of air alerts where people just have to sit in an air shelter for 3 to sometimes 6 hours. Um, an Iranian transport plane flew from Tehran to Moscow today. So more Shaheds, something along those lines, were delivered. Maybe some cruise missiles now. We don't know. So that's really great news. And there are currently, they call them mopeds. So if I don't know how many of you use Telegram, but uh, yeah, the Ukrainians call them mopeds because they sound like moped motors. They sound like motorcycle motors when they fly over. Um, and those were launched from Kursk, which is right across from the Crimean Peninsula. I'm sorry, it's right across the border from the Sumy and the Chernihiv region, which is in the northeastern part of Ukraine. Let's see. Two Tu-22M3 strategic aircraft took off from Shaikovka, where I don't know where that is, and one Tu-95 MS aircraft also took off. Now, the Tu-22M3 can launch the KH-22 or the KH-32. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're called the Onyx in English. These missiles are very, very hard to intercept. They are not these hypersonic, but I think something is going to they're going to take off again. So as of right now, there are 10 Tu-95 MS strategic aircraft in the air. They were launched from Engels Air Base and the Caspian Sea area. So these strategic bombers are capable of carrying nuclear warheads on missiles. They launched three types of missiles: KH-55s. KH-55s are they're blanks. They are very, very old, like from the 70s, although much of Russia's branding is from the 70s. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Yeah, I'll leave this Instagram open. Those they don't really carry much risk. So then the other two types of missiles, which we have to be more concerned with, are the KH-101 and the KH-555 missiles. Depending on the type, so the KH-555, one Tu-95 MS aircraft can carry up to 8 of the six of the KH-555 missiles, or 8 of the KH-101. Both of them, the KH-102, which is just another variant, is designed to carry nuclear warheads. These missiles are not as fast as the KH-22, and I'm sorry I'm throwing out like alphabet soup here. KH-22, KH-32 missiles, but they have this pernicious ability to maneuver in the air. So the planes take off. Ukrainians get notice that the planes have taken off. When I was there in August, this happened pretty much, I would say, every other day. So the first night I was in Lviv, I had a wonderful time. Yulia's parents showed, there it is, in Lviv. So I'm going to see what that's about. And then here's what it sounds like. Proceed to the nearest shelter. Don't be careless. You're over. The missiles can travel and they fly around Ukraine. Most of them end up going to Starkon Air Base, or a lot of them end up going to Kyiv. Now, when I was in Lviv, these missiles flew over me. They came from Russia, and then they flew over Lviv just to put everyone under an air alert. And one of the first things that, when I met with a member of parliament, one of the first things she asked me was, because I think she really wants Westerners to understand how dangerous this is and how exhausting it is to be up all night, to be constantly interrupted with your sleep, to have to go to work, and then to have these missiles be launched at you. So she asked me, "Do you? How are you doing with the air alerts?" And she wanted my perspective on it, and I said, "Well, I felt like, who am I to talk? I've been here for like." At that point, I had been there for, I think, 10 days. So I didn't really feel like I had any right to kind of complain about it. But she wanted to know how I felt. And she said, I'm exhausted. People have to go on with their lives, especially if they're in places like Zaporizhia. Kharkiv, especially right now, keeps getting shelled. More S-300 anti-aircraft missiles used in a ground attack were launched earlier today at Kharkiv. So these are really, really pernicious, even if they can be shot down, which the vast majority, the last time I checked, 90% of these missiles are shot down, including the Shaheds. But they terrorize the population, and damage that gets through causes fires and puts people at risk. So there are a couple of districts in Kyiv that keep getting hit because the Patriot air batteries are there, and the debris falls onto the Ukrainians. Apartment buildings. They target hospitals. There aren't any military targets that Russia is going after. It's pure terrorism. So let's see, six of the Tu-95 MS airplanes that were in the air have launched their missiles. They don't know how many were launched yet. Great. Yep. So they're going to do another bombing run. When you wake up in the morning, if you're on the East Coast or in the United States, there will be another very large air attack, and there will be news about that. One Tu-22M3 took off that is probably going to launch a KH-22 missile. And those are very, very hard to intercept. I don't know what the target is going to be. In addition, 3 Su-35s, those are the fighter jets that was not shot down. So they've shot down the 3 Su-34s. 3 Su-35 tactical aircraft are flying over the Sea of Azov. Those launch the KH-31, more alphabet soup, KH-31P anti-aircraft missiles. I'm sorry, anti-radiation missiles. So what those do is they're going after things like radars, anything that's emitting a electromagnetic signature. It's meant to target that. Usually it goes towards Dnipropetrovsk, which I can never say, or Odessa gets hit with them all the time. I just got another alert. Yeah, they just launched another 5 Tu-22M3. So we have the at least 10 Tu-95s, and then 5 Tu-22s. So there is going to be quite a bit of damage going on. They're also launching ballistic missiles. So let me just pull up Kharkiv here for 1 second, and I will get into the other news in a second here. Can I swear on here? I mean, just F these people. F them. Okay, there are actually 13 Tu-95s in the air. Fantastic. Kharkiv was hit today with probably North Korean missiles. I don't know. Definitely S-300s, and they cannot be intercepted. Um, they launched at least two of them at Kharkiv earlier today from Belgorod. So that's what's going on. All right. There is some good news, though. There will be some good news. Swears is okay? Okay, good. Fuck the Russians. Kill them all. I hope they all die. I hope they end up in the International Criminal Court. They need to be prosecuted. They need to be arrested. They need to be isolated. They are evil. Every single one of them is evil because they don't care. They know this is going on. And if you look at some of their Telegram channels, which I will pull up right now, they celebrate this stuff. They celebrate it. So here we go. I'm on a Russian Telegram channel. They launched two ballistic missiles hit Dnipropetrovsk, and here are the reactions. I don't know if you can see. Happy, clapping, thumbs up. They love it. They love it. They love this shit. They're not literal Nazis, they're Russians. The difference is that one of them speaks German, the other one speaks Russian, but their society at large is okay with it. And then the good Russians, if you actually listen to what the good Russians have to say, it's always about them, how they're a victim. They can't get a passport. There was someone in Canada who was a Russian. She spoke out against the war, and Canada denied her visa because she had a criminal record. What good does speaking out against the war abroad do? How does that actually help Ukrainians? You know, it just they're so entitled. They complain they can't go to Finland and Estonia, and they're constantly interfering in other people's business, and that's the only thing they're good at. They're a bunch of Karens. They're genocidal Karens. Okay. So, during a press conference following his visit to Latvia yesterday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky underscored the importance of air control and air defense in Ukraine's ongoing battle against Russian occupying forces. He said that Ukraine had liberated 50% of the territories occupied by Russia almost 2 years ago, but emphasized the need for air dominance to advance its defense forces further. I cannot agree more with this statement. Ukraine needs more air defense. Imagine if they had 10 Patriot batteries. Just imagine that. They could put one in the Kharkiv area. They could put one in Odessa. They can put one in Lviv. They can put one in Zaporizhia. They can put one in Donetsk. I mean, they could put them everywhere and close the skies. We know they have the radar technology to detect when these things, these Shaheds and these missiles, the low flying missiles and the high flying missiles are coming in. They just can't shoot them all down because they don't have enough air defense. And this is on the West to make sure they have enough air defense because we in the West took away Ukraine's nuclear weapons in 1994. We all got together and we took away Ukraine's nuclear weapons and we gave them to Russia. And we said, we will give you a security guarantee. Well, Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, annexed Crimea, and then launched a full scale invasion. And our response has been to slow walk aid and to not send enough air defense and to delay. Germany still hasn't sent the Taurus missiles. We sent them 20 ATACMS. Like, what are we doing? Our credibility on the world stage, especially the United States right now, is shit. If I were another country, if I were Georgia, I wouldn't trust us. If I'm in NATO, I don't trust us. I don't trust us to put boots on the ground and to provide exactly what we need. I don't trust us right now. And this is on President Biden. This is on Jake Sullivan and President Biden. And it makes me so angry because every time we've crossed one of Russia's red lines, they don't do anything. They don't do anything to us. They get mad, but they don't use their nuclear weapons. Because if they use their nuclear weapons, we would destroy them as well. Okay. On December 22nd, Ukrainian forces shot down 3 Russian Su, that's Sukhoi 34 combat jets over southern Ukraine. That was in southern Kherson. Although Russia has resumed tactical airstrikes in the recent days, the frequency and intensity of the operations remain lower than before the shootdown. This is true. When the tactical aviation, so this is what I call the fighter jets, the Su-34s, they were launching 70 to 100 glide bombs every day, a ton of them in Krinky, across that bridgehead across the Dnipro River in Kherson, and we saw the bomb after Ukraine shot down those 3 jets, we saw the glide bombs just kind of drop off. So, they've restarted, but, there's obviously something mobile going on. There's a mobile Patriot battery. So, to quote him, he said, "The situation at the front is very complicated. We lack weapons. If the Russians did not control the air and we had enough air defense, enough systems, we would simply destroy their aviation. We've tried. It works. When you destroy them in the sky, you move forward." Yeah. Ukraine doesn't make wide steps forward because they control the sky. If we could unblock the sky, we will go forward. If not, we will stand where we stand. He's exactly right. He highlighted that the advancement of Russian troops in Ukraine happens only because they are not afraid to kill civilians and destroy settlements before entering them. Despite Russia's narratives, they have not been able to occupy any big city in a year. And this is true. They're still trying to go after Avdiivka. I'm not going to go through the front. I don't think that that'll be in the podcast. Um, okay. Speaking of Russian missiles, um, Russian missiles struck a Kharkiv hotel, injuring 11, including Turkish journalists. At around 11:30 at night on January 10th, Russian forces hit the Kyiv district in central Heart. So this is a little bit confusing. There is in the city of Kharkiv, there is a district of the city called Kyiv, and that's where these Russian missiles hit. The governor of the oblast reported that um, 11 people were injured. Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terehov said 2 missiles hit a hotel downtown where 30 civilians were staying. The missile strike injured 11 of them. Initial reports suggest that the missiles were the S-300 ballistic missiles. So when I reference the S-300 and S-400, those are air defense missiles. Those are used for they're designed to shoot down air targets. But what Russia has been doing this entire time has been using them for ground attacks and hitting hotels, hospitals, civilian infrastructure, power plants, etc. Russia carries out ballistic missile strikes on Kharkiv city almost every day, and targeting it from Belgorod Oblast. One thing you'll hear for Belgorod, by the way, in Ukrainian, it's a letter and it looks like this. It's kind of like an inverse L. In Russian, that's pronounced with a g, and in Ukrainian, it's pronounced with a h sound, like an H. So the Ukrainians should call it Belhorod. And if you see that, that is why they called it the People's Republic of Belgorod. Um, Ukrainian air defenses are not sufficient to repel such attacks. The mayor of the city added that the um, victims included 4 men between the age of 31 and 38 and 7 women between the ages of 23 and 71. 71 years old. He noted that the missiles didn't hit the hotel, but exploded near it. 9 of the victims are currently in the hospital. One of them, a 35-year-old man, is in serious condition. And he added that Turkish journalists were among the injured. Yes, Grumpy, I'm reading from the draft. I have some other sources though too. I'm gonna bring in. Russia still imports 1/3 of essential war technology from Western companies, which, if you listen to our podcast, Ukraine War Brief, you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. We reported on a company in Texas that was established by 3 University of Texas at Austin professors, and they specialize in optical equipment and batteries as well for electric vehicles. They are under sanctions. The person, do you remember Maria Butina, the redheaded spy that went to prison and now she's a member of the Russian parliament? She embedded herself with the NRA. Yeah, the same dude that ran her as part of the FSB owns this company. And we found that right out in the open, and no one's doing anything about it. So this is not surprising. A data analysis conducted by the Kyiv School of Economics has revealed that Russia obtained at least 1/3 of its essential foreign battlefield components from companies headquartered in the United States and allied nations, according to the Financial Times. These goods, worth a total of $7.3 billion, were manufactured in countries that are not part of the US-led Export Control Coalition, according to the analysis. The largest share of the goods, worth around $1.9 billion, were produced in China. China. The US is the only country to insist that goods made in a third country may potentially be covered by domestic controls. The foreign direct product regulations are extraterritorial and can cover goods made in third countries if content, software, or technology originating in the United States has been involved in their production. So what's happening is when these sanction packages came out, countries like even Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, um, uh, although they've been fantastic, I think they've kind of addressed it. Kazakhstan is a huge country, Qatar. All of the sales that were formerly going to Russia all of a sudden went to like Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan and Turkey and Kazakhstan. So the yes, Belgorod is Ukraine. Um, the the problem is that we are not targeting those countries. And a couple of weeks ago, the deputy Treasury Secretary traveled to Turkey after he stopped by Yemen. I don't know if he said hello to the Houthis to encourage them to stop helping countries evade sanctions. So it's a big problem. NATO pledges billions in 2024 in weaponry for Ukraine. According to a statement released after a meeting of the NATO Ukraine Council held in Brussels, NATO countries will continue providing Kyiv with military, economic, and humanitarian aid in 2024. The statement comes amid debates within Western countries regarding further support for Ukraine. The meeting was held at the ambassadorial level, convened at Kyiv's request following the shelling of Ukraine during the New Year holidays. NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg chaired the session. Sweden was also there, although Turkey and Hungary are still holding up the Sweden's accession to NATO. The fascist, if I can call her that, uh, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is trying to convince Hungarian Premier and prick of a prestidigitator and principal provincial peasant Viktor Orban to lift his opposition to the EU's support for Ukraine and to improve relations with President Zelensky, according to Bloomberg. She's an idiot for trying. I mean, she should have like the EU leaders that are talking to this dude without playing the game of hard power, they need to withhold every single dime. A letter was introduced by a member of the European Parliament to initiate Article 7 proceedings, which would take away Hungary's vote because they're essentially a dictatorship and a corrupt one at that. I don't know what countries even want to join the EU if Hungary is just going to block things at every step of the way. One second while I pull up an update on this. The US Department of State has imposed sanctions against 3 organizations from the Russian Federation and 1 individual involved in the transfer and testing of North Korean ballistic missiles for the use by Russia against Ukraine. Um, it's about damn time. We need in the United States to completely decouple our economy from China, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela. We already have from Cuba, and not do trade with these countries. Um, yes, I am getting a. I have not removed the app, and I do like to know what's going on since I will be going back to Ukraine in late February slash early March. We're going to get an apartment in Kyiv, and I cannot wait. So, yes, I get air alerts. Also, Yulia lives in Lviv right now, so I like to know, um, what's happening there. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak visited Ukraine today. He pledged 2.5 billion pounds, or about $3.19 billion, according to the press service of the British government. The amount of aid from London will increase by 200 million pounds, or $255 million, compared to the previous year. The funding will help to leverage the best of UK military expertise and defense production to ensure Ukraine's victory on the battlefield, including in critical areas like long-range missiles, air defense, artillery ammunition, and maritime security, according to the government of the UK. Special efforts will be made to provide Ukraine with drones, both airborne and maritime. At least 200 million pounds will be allocated for drone production. This is big. They need more drones. If you can, by the way, please donate to the fundraiser. Go to beacons.ai/fundraiser. Yulia is trying to raise enough money to buy 3 FPV drones. These are first-person view drones, and they have some incredible footage of use in the battlefield, and they actively save lives. They save Ukrainian lives. So please, if you can, donate to that fundraiser. Thank you. I'll put the thank you for putting the link in. Okay. Ukraine and the UK have signed a security agreement that will be valid until uh, Ukraine is able to join NATO. This agreement became the first in the field of security agreements to implement the agreements agreed upon during the Vilnius NATO summit between Ukraine, the members of the G7, and the states that joined them. So, if you remember back in the summer, there was a NATO summit held in Vilnius, Lithuania. And the G7 countries, each individually, because they know that Ukraine cannot join NATO right now, there are too many people blocking it. Their army isn't up to the NATO standards, although they're definitely working on getting there. But each of the G7 countries, and for those who don't know, it's the United States, Canada, Italy, Germany, France, Japan, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting one other one. Oh, and the UK, duh. Plus, the EU is not an official member, but they are like a visiting representative. So the UK is the first to sign an individual agreement. Ukraine is working on coming up with and establishing formal security agreements with each of the G7 countries. So, waiting on the United States, Japan, et cetera, to make sure that Ukraine has tangible security guarantees. U.S. Special Representative, oh, this is interesting. U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine's Economic Recovery, Penny Pritzker, visited Kyiv today. Um, The U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Bridget Brink, said, "A very warm welcome to Kyiv to Penny Pritzker and U.S. private sector CEOs. Today, we will have meetings focused on accelerating U.S. business investment in Ukraine for the recovery," which is another reason I am moving to Ukraine, because I want to. We've started a media business, and I think the future of Ukraine is extremely bright. And um, I think once this war is over, and even probably before then, Ukraine's economy will be exploding in growth. And I see a lot of opportunities. That's part of the reason I'm moving there. It's not the only reason. I can make money here in the United States. But I feel very strongly about it, and I think it's a wonderful country, and it's everyone there is so hospitable. I feel safer in Ukraine than I do in um, parts of the United States, including Boston. So this is interesting because Penny Pritzker is the sister of the billionaire governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and she's also a member of the Harvard Corporation who forced President Gay to resign over her plagiarism and her uh, oh, it's okay to call for Jewish genocide during the uh, hearings in Congress. So she's been a busy bee, that one. We have more information on the drones that the UK is providing. So the drones will help defeat Russian forces and push Russia out of Ukraine, as well as reduce the risks to Ukrainian exports through the Black Sea. Reconnaissance drones, long-range attack drones, and FPV drones. There are other things we provide, but I don't want to disclose operational details, according to the British Prime Minister. So I'm hoping that they have provided something that Ukraine does not currently have, and that they provide it soon. So that's very exciting. Okay, so more details about the security agreement between the UK and Ukraine. The first is that it formalizes the security arrangements that are currently in place. And second, it ensures that the support is long term so that Russia understands that the UK will remain standing with Ukraine, according to the British Prime Minister. He said that there is a third component that prevents a new attack after the current war ends. If Ru- and here I'm quoting Rishi Sunak. If Russia attacks again, we will provide the support that Ukraine needs: modern weapons on the ground, at sea, and in the sky, economic support, and sanctions that will hit Russia hard. Zelensky clarified that the agreement provides time for consultations with partners in the case of a recurrence of Russian aggression, which they will do again. If Russia is defeated, when Russia is defeated, they will try to attack Ukraine again. So this is really important. 4 Ukrainian sailors are being held captive by Jesus, by Yemeni Houthis, according to President Zelensky. Why is it when the October 7th attack happened in Israel, do you know the number one foreign nationality besides Israelis for the hostages was Ukrainian? And now there are sailors being held captive by the Houthi rebels in Yemen. So, I mean, this country cannot just catch a break. The Houthis also attacked by mistake a Russian vessel carrying oil, which is sanctioned. So I don't know if that ship was damaged or what happened, but it's really, really kind of funny that they did that. The main directorate of the intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, so this is the HUR or the GUR, headed by Kirill Budanov, provided information about what kinds of weapons Putin is receiving from dear leader Kim Jong-un. He's quoted as saying, a spokesman is quoted as saying, the supply of artillery shells, combat kits, shells for multiple launch rocket systems, or MLRS, and mines have all been confirmed. Regarding ballistic missiles, we continue to collect data and conduct additional exploration to analyze the situation. Earlier, the Deputy Chief of Defense Intelligence of Ukraine reported that there were 462,000 Russian soldiers and 35 Russian guards in Ukraine. So there are 500,000 Russians, so Russian security, so army, people belonging to the military, security forces. I don't think this counts police. And it certainly doesn't count Russian citizens. There are 500,000 of them in Ukraine right now. This includes, the 500,000 includes Storm Z, Storm V. Apparently, United Russia, Putin's political party, is getting its own mercenary group, mercenary unit. So this is really, really nice that they have so many mercenary units. No, good question, Grumpy. I don't think it counts the 350,000 Russians who are dead. Although if you do, that brings you up to what, 850,000. It's going to be a very, very fertile area. The places that have been under Russian occupation for so long because of all the dead Russians, and it's already very fertile. It's already a breadbasket. Thank God for Romania. Romania has become the largest alternative route for Ukrainian grain exports in 2023. The Romanian port of Constanta recorded the highest grain exports in 2023 due to a sharp increase in supplies from Ukraine and EU-funded infrastructure projects. According to the port's administration, 36 million metric tons of grain were shipped there last year, which is 50% more than in 2022. Ukrainian grain accounted for about 40% of the total, or 14 million tons, compared to 13 million tons at the end of November and 8.6 million tons in 2022. In July, transit volumes decreased as Russia began to hit river ports across the Danube from Romania. Romanian authorities are aiming to increase their transit capacity for Ukrainian grain to 4 million tons a month and are currently modernizing rail and road infrastructure in and around the port. So this is very good news. Kirill Buldanov, head of the Ukrainian military intelligence, gave a interview with the French newspaper Le Monde, and the upshot is that Russia is experiencing a weak economy, which we've previously talked about. Since the summer, there has been an increase in the quantity of Russian-made ammunition, but there is a noticeable decline in the quality. Russian missiles exhibit several shortcomings and often miss their targets. This is important. Sanctions against Russia are having an impact, but they are deemed insufficient. What sanctions do is, because there's so much sanction evasion, is it raises the cost. It puts a middleman in between the product, whatever Russia wants. Let's say it's made in the United States. Instead of just shipping it to Russia, it's getting shipped to Turkey. People in Turkey are taking a cut, and then it's going maybe to Kazakhstan, and they're taking a cut, and then it's going to Russia. So sanctions, even if they're not fully enforced or there is sanctions evasion through third parties, it is working. It is increasing the cost, and the United States and its allies, especially in the EU, need to do more to crack down on sanctions evasion. But it's really, really important that these sanctions remain in place. You hear a lot about how they don't work, but that's a really important point that we need to keep in mind. Budanov said sanctions need to extend to critical sectors of Russia's economy, such as the energy, metallurgy, and financial systems. Despite current sanctions, Russia's economy remains surprisingly resilient. Both Ukraine and Russia face challenges in conducting offensive operations due to a widespread use of UAVs, those are drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, and the density of minefields, unprecedented since World War II. Electronic warfare, this is all from Budanov in Le Monde. Electronic warfare proves effective against drones, while addressing the mine issue requires specialized equipment. Additional projectiles, and artillery systems, including outdated ones no longer in use, are deemed essential to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities. Although there is a notable shortage of soldiers in Ukraine, it is considered significant but not alarming. Those abroad who believe they are tired of Ukraine may need to reconsider when Moscow turns its focus to their territories upon occupation. Captured Russian soldiers reveal their mission is to wage war against NATO, with Ukraine just being the initial stage. And this is true. I don't know what it is going to take for people who don't get this to get this. Russia has been saying this from the beginning. Putin has been saying this from the beginning. There are Russian watchers. Mark Galeotti is one of them. He supposedly is an expert on Russia, and he blames NATO for putting bases in Finland and provoking Russia. Russia is going to attack NATO no matter what NATO does. They flew rockets into Romania, drones into Romanian airspace, and rockets into Polish airspace. And they have been attacking us since 2012, 2011. They launched a huge cyber attack in Estonia in 2008. The Russians have been attacking us for decades, and we need to get it through our thick effing skulls and respond. We need to have a wartime posture. The new head of the French Foreign Ministry, Stéphane Séjourné, I don't know if I said that right, is going to Kyiv to demonstrate France's support for Ukraine in the fight against Russian aggression. Initially, it was planned that the head of the French Foreign Ministry, Catherine Colonna, would meet Grumpy. How's my French? I think there are planned bases in NATO. Maybe that's what he was talking about. Initially, it was planned that the head of the French Foreign Ministry would meet with President Zelensky, but on January 11th, she resigned, and Sejourné was appointed in her place. Yeah, merci beaucoup. Yes, and France has the first gay, yay, prime minister, and he's quite good looking. So if anyone knows him, let me know. Russia is actively preparing to challenge the possible confiscation of $300 billion in frozen assets to help Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. Such a step is considered unlikely in Moscow, but they are preparing to enter into agreements with international law firms that will represent the interests of the Russian Federation in the event of a trial. According to the interlocutors of the publication, lawsuits will allow the Russian Federation to at least prevent the transfer of funds to Ukraine, even if it can't regain control over them. And it will slow down the process. It will slow down the process. Okay, good news out of Slovakia, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Slovakia will continue its military support to Ukraine during Fico's premiership, according to the Ukrainian ambassador to Slovakia, Miroslav Kastran, in a statement to Glavkom. He was the first ambassador whom the head of the Slovak Foreign Ministry, Joras Blanar, invited to a meeting. Ukraine assessed this as a positive signal. The minister confirmed further assistance to Ukraine and noted that the issuance of export licenses will be accelerated as much as possible. So, this Robert Fico is a anti-NATO, anti-EU, pro-Putin stooge. But there were huge protests in Slovakia, yes, this week. And I don't think the Slovakians, when I went there were a lot of Ukrainian flags in Slovakia and Slovenia. And the population is not supportive of Russia at all. There is a certain subset, but especially if you're talking about the big cities, they are not, like Bratislava, there were plenty of Ukrainian flags everywhere. So, okay, I want to, there's other news I probably missed. I want to play a quick preview of an episode I'm working on. Let me know if you can hear it, and then I'm going to let you go because it's late. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was indicted by a federal grand jury and special counsel Jack Smith on August 1st, 2023, and charged with 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, 1 count of obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and 1 count of conspiracy against rights for his role in the January 6, 2021 insurrection. Trump attempted a coup d'etat by submitting false electoral college votes to the National Archives and, when that failed, stochastically and then directly sent a violent mob to stop valid electoral college votes from being counted by Congress in order to illegally remain in power. Federal District Court Judge Tanya S. Chutkin of the District of Columbia was randomly selected to oversee the criminal proceedings. She set a March 4th, 2024 trial date and handled pretrial motions, including what evidence should be allowed in, any gag orders, the language of questionnaires for potential jurors, what defenses should be allowed, and so on. Trump filed a pretrial motion at the district court level, arguing he had absolute immunity from prosecution, and therefore the criminal charges. Chutkin denied that motion, but put all proceedings on hold pending the outcome of his appeal. Now, you might be asking, what does this have to do with the war in Ukraine? And the answer is almost everything. Donald Trump, as the likely Republican nominee for the 2024 presidential election, has made it very clear that he would leave Ukraine to its fate. Don't forget that one of his 2016 campaign managers, Paul Manafort, worked for disgraced Russian puppet and former Ukrainian president Viktor Yanukovych. After Yanukovych was forced from power during the 2014 Maidan Revolution, he fled to Russia, and Manafort continued to work for Russian oligarch and Kremlin gremlin Oleg Deripaska. Within a month, Russia invaded the Donbass, that is, parts of Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts, and annexed Krim, better known by its wrong name, Crimea. Trump and Manafort changed the 2016 Republican Party platform to remove providing lethal security assistance to Ukraine. And for what it's worth, the Republican Party doesn't even have a platform anymore. Although it was overshadowed because of the advent of COVID, Trump was first impeached for illegally withholding Javelin anti-tank weapons from Ukraine and extorting President Zelensky. He ordered the Pentagon not to send javelins while secretly demanding Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to dig up dirt on Joe Biden and his surviving son, Hunter. Hunter Biden had been on the board of Ukrainian energy company Burisma at the time. Spifflicated simpleton and Trump surrogate Rudy Giuliani traveled to Kyiv many times to fabricate evidence of Biden's supposed corruption. David Frum said it best in an article in The Atlantic, quote, Ukraine's expendability to congressional Republicans originates in the sinister special relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Ukraine equals enemy of Trump. Abandoning Ukraine equals proof of loyalty to Trump. As Trump nears renomination by his party in 2024, the displays of loyalty to him have become ever more obligatory for Republicans. Solidarity with Ukraine has faltered as support for Trump has consolidated. Make no mistake, if Republicans in Congress abandon Ukraine to Russian aggression, they do so to please Trump. Every other excuse is a fiction or a lie, unquote. This brings us back to the trial of Trump. Removing Trump as a political actor removes an existential threat to Ukraine. However, most mainstream media coverage of the trial lacks context and nuance. As I listened to the oral arguments in the Court of Appeals, more on that in a minute, I noticed Russian propaganda had made its way into the courtroom. Russian propaganda has infiltrated our society in such pernicious ways, and US institutions, especially the media or Fourth Estate, are doing little to nothing to combat it. News consumers are left to their own devices, allowing the Russians to divide and conquer. So in this episode, I go on to talk about all of Russia's ongoing active measures and propaganda in the United States. I bring up the AIDS conspiracy theory. And yes, they have. They have been working in the United States for decades and in Great Britain. They never stopped. Just because the Soviet Union collapsed does not mean that the the KGB went away. They just rebranded. They're known as a different agency now, the FSB and the SVR. And in fact, the military intelligence, the GRU, has been in place during the Red Army. So that organization just carried on over. It's quite fascinating what Russia has been doing. And I'm going to break down the oral arguments that happened during in the Court of Appeals, so you can hear exactly what Russian propaganda has actually infiltrated Trump's arguments and into the court itself as he tries to escape justice for his crimes, of which there are many. All right, before I go, another two MiGs, MiG-31Ks have taken off, meaning there will be launches of Kinjals. The entire country is under an air alert. So I'm going to text Yulia now. All right. Thank you, everyone. Yes, please donate to the fundraiser, beacons.ai/fundraiser. I think there's enough to buy 2 drones. The goal is $15,000. We are almost there, but every single drone is important and saves lives. before I go, yes, quick update. 3 MiG-31 aircraft took off from Slovakia. 2 KH-31P anti-radiation missiles were launched towards Kherson. 2 more Su-35 tactical aviation jets have taken off over the Sea of Azov. Kinjals were launched towards Dnipro. They are attacking Zhytomyr. Oh, and if you're listening to me on Twitter, it's because I'm also on YouTube and Instagram. I won't go. I will answer your questions if you're listening on Twitter. A total of 6. Yep, I already mentioned that. Cruise missiles are over Zhytomyr, which is west of Kyiv, and flying towards Khmelnytsky and Rivne. Vinnytsia and Khmelnytsky have missiles, and they hit Starokonstantiv. There's an air base there. Yeah. I don't know if they hit it with the Kinjals. Hang on, let me just check on Yulia. Let me see the mayor of Lviv here. Has he posted anything? And you know what? Let me check on the Russian channels too. No, the mayor of Lviv has not posted, which is good. He hasn't posted anything since Friday. One more update. Yeah, so these KH-50, I don't know how many missiles there are so far. There were explosions in Dnipro. High-speed target to Kyiv through Suma Oblast, so that means it is probably some sort of Iskander M, Iskander K ballistic missile. Yeah, they're under a huge air attack right now. A huge air attack. Call your senators. Well, I'd say call the House, but I think Speaker Johnson is probably done. But still call them, because this is all preventable. It's all preventable. They hit Dnipro with Kinjal. Okay, thank you guys. I hope Yulia can do this tomorrow, but she may be busy. I'll talk to her hopefully, and listen to Ukraine War Brief. You can get it. It's called Ukraine War Brief. And please, please, please donate to the fundraiser, beacons.ai/fundraiser for DJI Mavic drones. They're really, really, really important. All right. Have a good night. And if you're on Twitter, I will answer your questions if you're still listening. Bye, everyone. Stay safe if you're in Ukraine. Bye-bye.